Welcome to the Indie Horror Junkie podcast. Tonight, you will be joining Rotting Ricky and Asylum Amy as they play host to some of the true movers and shakers in the indie horror scene. So lock your doors, check under the bed, and get comfortable, because here we go.
And we're the Saska Sisters. And this is Indie Horror Junkie! Indie Horror Junkie! Indie Horror Junkie!
Hello, junkies.
What's up, junkies?
Yes, you may have noticed this is not Amy joining me again tonight. Maybe the goatee gave it away, but Amy will be joining us next week. But this is our good buddy Lance, Lunatic Lance, as a matter of fact, his new handle, which somebody gave him that he loves and fits right in. So how you doing, Lance?
Another day in paradise, my friend. Shout out to Jason Pitts for the Lunatic Lance suggestion. So,
well done, Jason. Good call. All right, we'll go through some quick housekeeping here before we bring on our guest for this evening. Our guest is Charlie Steeds, filmmaker from just across the pond, as we like to say, here in America. So let's get through this quick housekeeping real quick and get him on here.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, we have our film that's we're really excited about. It's our new anthology. It's called Reels of the Dead. Now, we're going to be filming this starting in January. And let's bring up the graphic here for it. Yeah, we have some poster art that's being made for it. But the first volume is going to be called The Theater, or at least tentatively titled The Theater. We're kicking around a few things here, but it's essentially going to be a horror anthology that's going to have a main wraparound story that will star myself and Asylum Amy. And then we will have 3 short films that will be in there to make it a feature film. And we film, like I said, in January and February. And hopefully we will have our premiere probably sometime in June, maybe July. And then from there, put it out and go from there. But we're really, really excited about this project. So we can't wait to tell you more about it, which we will have here shortly.
Yeah, I don't even know anything about it.
Exactly. We want to keep it right now. But yeah, I mean, we know the basic premise that's out there right now, but we're still kicking things around. But we're very, very excited about it. So next up, we have our other feature film, the first one that we put out as a joint venture here, which is called The Clock. Now, this one's available on all different kinds of streaming services. I noticed the image here. I've got to add some that's just been added to it, which is really cool. We just got a notice from our distributor, Bayview, that it got put on. I think they put out like 6 or 7, maybe 8 different streaming services that are lining up their 31 Days of Halloween films in a different streaming service, and we're on half of them. So it's so cool. So we also have this available on Blu-ray. And on Blu-ray, we definitely recommend getting the Blu-ray. You can get it through
absolutely.
or you can get it through IndieHorrorJunkie.com. But on the Blu-ray, we've got a couple special features. One of which is an audio commentary from myself and my DP, Salo Zayas. It was amazing that we were able to get along for the hour and a half that it took for the audio commentary. It was a lot of fun. And then the other featurette is a little featurette that's on the original old-time radio show, which is called Hickory Dickory Doom, that the movie is actually based on. I was a big fan of old-time radio, and that was one of those episodes that I heard when I was like 15 years old that always stuck with me and thought like, man, that would be a cool movie. So I decided to make it. So there it is. And I wanted to give a shout out to the old-time radio show so you can actually hear the radio show in its entirety and hear a little backstory on that. Next up, we have one of our sponsors here, which is Tarot Cards.
Yes, sir.
Lance, you want to tell them a little bit about what Tarot Cards is?
Oh, it's that online app trading card game. buy and sell and trade different characters from different horror movies. They've got the characters from The Clock on there. Jason Pitts, once again, The Forest Through the Trees is on there. And I saw they just added last week, I saw they added Graveyard Shark, which I'm excited about because Graveyard Shark is a phenomenal movie that everybody needs to see. So Tarot Cards is awesome. Download the app, free to play.
Free to play. Yep, absolutely. Basically, it's a trading card game. You can trade with a whole community of people on there. So definitely check it out. And like Lance said, it is free to download, so check it out in the App Store. Then we've got our Nightmare Collection series, which is Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3 to close out our Necro-Nancy storyline. All 3 volumes are now available on DVD, and you can pick them up through IndieHorrorJunkie.com. So definitely take a look. And then we have our film festival, which is coming up in March. Going to be held at the wonderful MegaCon convention in Orlando. We are still accepting submissions for this, so if you're interested in getting involved, definitely go to IndieHorrorJunkie.com. You can go to the Film Freeway banner. As a matter of fact, I've got it right here. Look at that. What's up? There you go. .com/Indie Horror Junkie Film Fest. If you want to go ahead and get your film in there, we're still accepting submissions, I think, until the end of the year. And then in March is the actual event.
March can't get here soon enough.
Oh, I'm telling you, that is such a great event. And then the last but not least here is our current issue that's currently out. Has the wonderful Eileen Dietz on the cover. Of course, she played the demon in The Exorcist, which is a great, wholesome movie that all the family enjoyed. I watched it when I was a kid, and it's definitely warped me, which was a good thing, you know. But that's issue number 19. We do have issue number 20 that we'll be releasing on November 13th, and we will release the cover, so you can see the cover art and the worksheet there showing you all the different other articles that are in it. We'll be releasing that on November 1st. So definitely, if you have a film, if you have a product, if you have a service that you want to get across to many of the indie horror fanatics that we have that pick up our magazine, we are still accepting ads, full page or half page ads. So drop us a line at IndieHorrorJunkie.com. We'll get you all the deets, and that way you can go ahead and get in the new issue before it comes out. And I think that's about it as far as
Did you want to talk about your Web of Darkness?
What was that? I'm sorry?
Did you want to talk about your Web of Darkness?
Oh, well, we have another. Web of Darkness is a whole different animal. I created that back when I was back in the year 2000. That was my very first feature film. It co-stars Tom Savini and Brinke Stevens. Some of you may have heard of those two characters. And it was an amazing opportunity. Everything that could go wrong on a film set went wrong twice. And the fact that it's even completed and out there on DVD is really a miracle of God, but it is. So I am going, as a matter of fact, I think you can pick it up on IndieHorrorJunkie.com. We have a select few on there, but just beware that this was a movie that was never meant to get finished. So it's stitched together with the best possible version that we could, just so you could see, but it's all up from here. So, you know, absolutely. All right, so we have our guest, like I said. His name is Charlie Steeds. He's a filmmaker from the UK, and we did a big spread on his movie in issue number 18, which I will bring up here as a matter of fact when he gets on. But in the meantime, we'll do like we normally do, and we will go ahead and show the trailer for the film, and then bring Charlie on so we can grill him like crazy, of course. All right, here's a trailer for his new movie getting ready to come out.
She afford a car like that?
She saved all last year, Mama.
How are you going to support yourself all summer?
You don't have to worry about us, Mrs. Claiborne. We'll take good care of each other. I know there's a whole world out there just waiting for us, Sherry. And if we don't seize the moment now, then when? We have each other's backs. Always. Well, what more do we need?
What is it?
I don't know, the engine or something?
Well, howdy. Looks like you girls got yourself a situation out here.
Sir, could you maybe just go into town and let the mechanic know that we're stuck out here?
Whatever you ladies want.
Come on, let's just ride with him. We can get breakfast. I'm starving.
Just dropping a little something off at my cousin's house.
We didn't agree to no detour.
Hey, boys, come on out here. See what I found us.
Sherry.
You're now the property of Cassini Ranch, understand? You gotta do anything me and my cousins tell you to do. You try to escape, we're gonna beat your ass and add another 20 days.
I don't want to be here for 20 days.
What'd they do to you? I got this whole county wrapped around my little finger.
Please let me go, Sheriff.
You shut the fuck up, you little bitch. You're getting out of here.
Some hillbillies over in Georgia done kidnapped Sherry. You ain't getting out of here that easy.
You coming like a motherfucking hurricane, baby, okay?
I will personally see to it that you die on this thing. You done fucked
Very cool. Hello, Charlie.
Hi,
Charlie, that looks amazing.
Thank you.
Definitely got some serious Texas Chainsaw vibes going on there, which is a good thing for me. Well, really quick before we get started, let's go ahead and bring this up because I wanted to mention to everybody. We did a big spread on your film right here, issue number 18. So you can still pick that up on IndieHorrorJunkie.com. We did a big 3-page spread on the film itself. But the main reason we wanted to bring this up is because the film is no longer titled The Deep South Death House. We have a new poster, brand new here to show you with the new title. Wazam! There you go. Southern Nightmare is the new title. Who came up with that title?
That was actually the international sales agent. I got in touch with them, and we were talking about the film and marketing it, to I guess a modern audience. Because clearly you can see from the trailer, I'm a big fan of old exploitation movies, grindhouse movies, and so the Deep South Death House, that was my exploitation style title. But I get that to a modern audience who might not even know what grindhouse is, if you're just going through streaming platforms, Southern Nightmare has a little bit more of a punch to it. I'm 50-50. I like both titles, but I did think about it for about a month, and then I thought, you know what, I'm okay with Southern Nightmare, and my main priority is get people to watch the film.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of a trade-off there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we usually call it A Day in the Life in Florida. Everyone would, but I understand completely. The Southern Nightmare definitely has a nice ring to it as well. We have a little comment here from Tarot Cards. That looks really good. Lots of production quality going on. I have to agree. The production quality does look outstanding.
Yeah, it does look top notch.
How long did it take you to pull that off? I think you said you're still working on it, or?
Yeah, still in post at the moment. I mean, the whole film's come together really very quickly because we shot it earlier this year. And only about, 2 or 3 weeks before we were there in Tennessee filming it, did I decide that I was going to go ahead and do it. It's got a very unusual, well, compared to how I usually work anyway, it's got a very unusual way that it came to be, but it was very, very quick. Everything just suddenly was go, go, go. And so we shot it earlier this year, and I'm on doing the post on it now, and it'll be finished, within a few days.
Very cool. Now, you said when we were talking earlier before we actually went live here, with regards to the film itself, I think you said that it's going to go, you said that it was going to go to some film festivals later on this month. Is that the plan?
That's right. Yeah. So it's first playing Obscura Film Fest, which is in Berlin. That'll be the world premiere.
Wow.
And then it's playing Dead and Sudbury in the UK. That'll be the UK premiere. And then it's playing Nightmare in the Ozarks in Eureka Springs. That'll be the USA premiere. And then we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Indie Horror Junkie.
Hey, yeah. That would be wonderful. I mean, have you been here to the US?
Yes.
Well, you filmed in Tennessee, but
yeah,
have you been to Florida?
I've been to Florida. I've been to Orlando, and yeah. So yeah, I mean, and I always mean to come to more festivals. I mean, I'd love to go to Nightmare in the Ozarks. I played there last year as well. That was the festival's first year, and then this is the festival's second year. So it's a new festival, and I'd love to be there and sort of see it grow, especially with my films playing. But yeah, I mean, it's on my goals for next year is to make the time. I'm just always so busy, filming one thing after the other or trying to get post finish. So, but I do need to come and do more festivals for sure.
Yeah, well, if we can get you in that Indie Horror Junkie Film Fest, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to the MegaCon Festival in Orlando, but it is an unbelievable animal. They get about 250,000 people there that weekend, and it's just an amazing event. Pretty much every guest you can imagine, and then we run the film festival on like the third floor or something like that, and we usually get a really strong crowd that comes out there, and we have some of the vendors and filmmakers and stuff out there with us, and really try and make it a family type event so people can get pictures and meet everybody. And so it's just an unbelievable event. So we definitely recommend, if you get a chance, to come out and check us out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, with regards to your film, one of the other things that we kind of touched on a little bit, because like I told you before, we have a lot of viewers and stuff that watch the shows. We like to try and get into the nuts and bolts of everything. With this one here, because you said this is your 20th film, correct?
Wow,
Yes.
that's crazy.
That's amazing. How long have you been doing this?
I know, right?
Well, in a couple of months' time, it'll be 10 years since I quit my day job and did filmmaking full time.
Wow. So
Good for you, man.
Absolutely. I love that. That's great.
It's incredible.
So, now, you said the other 19 films are with various distributors and stuff throughout, and this one here, you're going to be self-distributing, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the way my films have worked over the years is usually, a company who funds these low budget sort of straight to streaming, or used to be straight to DVD type movies. They'll get in touch with me. They'll have seen my other work, and they'll ask for either, they usually ask for something. We want a vampire film. We want a werewolf film, or sometimes they'll be open to my own concepts. And then, they give me a budget and off I go. But they then own the film. They can do what they want. They can change the title. They can put their own DVD cover, and I don't have a say in any of that stuff. And luckily only in one instance have they actually edited anything out of the movie. So I mean, it is nice, because usually I do have almost complete creative control of the film. Everything contained within the film. But then to see it, end up with a really shit poster, and then a title change, and then it suddenly doesn't feel like your movie, and then it can be really disheartening. And so with this film, the whole process was completely different. I had a private investor who basically put in a budget, but he's not in the film industry, so he wasn't really, his interest was to support me, not necessarily to try and do anything business wise with the film industry. And he wasn't interested in the content of the film or anything. He just wanted me to make whatever I wanted, which
that's awesome.
Is absolutely what it's a dream scenario for a filmmaker. But then I actually spent probably about 2 years just thinking about, what film am I going to do? I can make anything. I think I was so used to people saying to me, do this, do that, try make a story of this, telling me what they wanted, what the market wanted, which, by the way, was usually always wrong, because by the time it got to DVD, the market had moved way on from that. So, we should have just done original things from the get-go. But I just think, as I say, after 19 movies, obviously I love filmmaking, but you do start to get a little bit of a fatigue with, just turning them out in this mechanical way. And I did get to a point where I just thought, if it's not making absolutely what I love, then what's the point in even doing it, And but it took me a long time, as I say, about 2 years, just thinking, what do I do now that I've been given the freedom? What do I make? And I changed my idea every week, actually, for the whole 2 years. Every week I had a different idea. It was the same sort of set of ideas. I've got a list of films that I will make, in my lifetime. I just don't know in what order I'm going to make them. And this one's been on the list for years and years. But anyway, only about 2 or 3 weeks before I actually arrived in Tennessee to shoot the movie, I decided it's going to be this one. It's going to be this film that was called The Deep South Death House. And it kind of had to move quick. Otherwise, I'd give myself time to change my mind. So that's basically how it came to be. And so it's entirely my movie. I had no boss. Nobody was telling me what I could and couldn't do. As I say, it took me 2 years to actually think as a filmmaker, what do I want to tell? Like if this was my last ever film, what would I want to do with it? And so when it comes to the distribution, I did do a bit of crowdfunding when we wrapped to try and sort of get those extra funds to get the movie finished. So in the UK, I'm going to always hold the rights. And for my crowdfunding backers, I'll be shipping them out, all sorts of things, Blu-rays and posters and all that sort of stuff. But I'll just have a big stock of the Blu-ray, which is sort of like the collector's edition Blu-ray I've always dreamed of. You hope all your films have this sort of release where you can have the slip cover and the artwork you want and all the special features.
Rick loves all that.
Yeah, me too. And so it's just nice knowing that will always be there and that people can buy that from me any day from the day it comes out, and that the money is directly back into my own pocket. So that was just, all of this was just really important with this project and separates it massively from what I've done before.
Okay. Well, before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, which I have a lot of questions here for you, I do want to ask you, because listening to you talk about this, you talked about if I had to make one movie and this is all I could do, this was the one I was going to do. Mm-hmm. Where did this concept come from? And what type of deep childhood trauma did you have to come up with something like this?
It's a good question, but I can't. As I say, I've had the idea for a long time, so I can't really remember. But I love women in prison movies. I love generally any exploitation subgenre. I really enjoy, for the most part. So I like women in prison movies, and at some stage I came up with this idea that there would be this old farmhouse or this ranch, and we'd have all these girls chained up. They're being used as sex slaves, and it to be basic, because I kind of knew on my budget I probably couldn't do a women in prison movie, but maybe if the prison was just a sleazy old ranch, and they were just chained up to the beds with a bunch of rednecks, that probably would be more doable than to have a full-scale prison. Right. So that was really the root of the idea. And then over the course of this 2 years of coming up with the idea, there was a couple of things. First of all, I had kind of like, I guess, many epiphanies as a filmmaker, because I started when I was so young. I never really stopped to think, why do I want to be a filmmaker? What films do I want to make? What do I want to be known as? None of that crossed my mind. I just picked up a camera and I wanted to make stuff, just to see if I could. But then I find myself, 19 movies down the line, and, maybe people who are watching this, they probably never heard of me, never heard of my name, might have never heard of any of my films. So you start asking yourself, why is that, and what is the film then that is going to show people that, hang on a minute, there's so many thousands of filmmakers out here and so many thousands of indie films, especially indie horror films, being made every year. I did ask myself, what's the point actually of carrying on? Are there not enough of us? So I had to really think, for me, why is it essential that horror films has me there directing them? I've got basically no money, basically no contacts. So what is it important that I feel I should be here? And so I made a list of I clocked on to that there were these movies, some very random movies, but they just, when I watch them, they just feel, there's a feeling that there is in no other movie. They're not even necessarily horror movies, but I just made a list of like films that give me this feeling that feels like what I want to do. And it's also something that you just never see in any film anymore. You only really get them in 70s movies or 80s movies. And so I basically, over this period, decided and refined, you know, what am I going to be as a filmmaker? So it's kind of like, you know, in my own brain, like kind of reinventing myself and my films. And that's what kind of taking little pieces of all of those different films, they all fed into this movie. There's a little bit of all these films that all fed in to this. So it's really like a sort of a patchwork of a lot of influences. And then the other thing, as I said, I had this idea of the prison ranch, but I was filming last year. I filmed 3 giant killer snake movies back to back in Georgia. They're 3 very different movies. They've not been released yet, but they're all finished. So they'll be coming out soon. But they're all very different. They've all got 3 different writers. I wrote one of them. But on the last one that I was filming, it's called Snake Infestation. It's about an African-American family who move into a sort of beaten up old farmhouse, and they're going to renovate it. And then they find snake eggs. And then the whole idea of this film, when I pitched it to the writer, was I kind of wanted something like Critters, but it's going to be the snake eggs hatch, and then there's many snakes on the loose. And just working with all of the cast that I had on that film, we just had such a fun shoot, and that gave me an idea. It's kind of a spoiler for Southern Nightmare, but seeing as it's kind of all in the trailer, the idea to just have not only the girls in the ranch, but also to have this family that was gonna get involved with a revenge mission. I was kind of looking at this cast and just thinking, these guys are so fun, and I'd love to see these guys come into that movie and get revenge. And so, you know, the lead actor, Travis, from Snake Infestation, he plays the dad in Southern Nightmare. So it's literally the people who were in front of me, I brought them in. So making that film kind of inspired, it was kind of the final thing that clicked, and I knew suddenly this is my act 3 of that movie, and then that kind of made it all come together.
I mean, you never know where inspiration's going to come from.
Yeah.
Now, with regards to those snake movies, did you use any practical effects or CGI or a mixture of both, or how'd that work?
It's entirely practical effects because
Nice.
You know, I don't like CGI. I've never used CGI. You know, for better or worse, it's a practical snake puppet. And I'm
like
sure,
any actual snakes?
no actual snakes whatsoever, just snake puppets. And
Puppet, I love it.
I think, you know, there will be a handful of people who watch this film, or the 3 films on, you know, Tubi or Prime or wherever they're going to be, and will really appreciate and adore the practical effects.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, you know, with all of my films, it's always practical effects, you know, practical effects, werewolves or whatever. And I don't bother, you know, hiding them in the shadows or not revealing them. I know what I'm working with, and I know what it looks like, whether that's goofy or whatever. But I'm gonna, you know, if you say it's a snake movie, you need to see the snake. You know, I'm not gonna be a filmmaker that gives you a little bit of snake in the last 5 minutes. So there is full-blown snake puppet throughout all 3 of these films in, you know, clear daylight. And you're either going to be on board with it, or there's a possibility that the majority of people, you know, regular audiences who don't appreciate those old school practical effects might be like, what am I watching? You know?
Yeah. Well,
I love practical effects. That's the way to go.
I agree totally. I'm a big fan of the 70s and 80s, especially the 80s. I'm a huge 80s horror fan.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the thing. Even if you knew it was a puppet, even if you saw it, just the fact that it's practical, like you said, you kind of looked past that and you enjoyed it for what it is, knowing what it is. Maybe it didn't look exactly real, but you appreciate the effort and you appreciate the practicality of it. So absolutely, I think the big horror fans will go for that. And then, like you said, with the werewolves, I'm a huge werewolf fan. I actually have my own script for a werewolf movie called Lycanthrope that I'm really hoping one day I get to shoot. And like you, I've seen so many werewolf movies, and like you said, sometimes you don't even see the werewolves. Like the last 5 minutes, the last 10 minutes of the movie, it's all just fur or eyes or teeth or whatever it is. And I don't like that. In my script, you see him in his full glory in the first 5 minutes. So you know exactly what you're dealing with. And that's what I wanted to see when I was a kid. So when I went to write that script, I wanted to write it to see something that I've always wanted to see. So I can definitely appreciate that and know exactly where you're coming from there.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect mindset. That's where I go to. I remember as a teenager sitting in my bedroom surrounded by horror movie posters and watching these, old movies. And I just, whenever I'm making stuff now, I try and put myself back in that place. What would I want to see? And, honestly, 90% of the horror films that I end up watching or trailers that come on, teenage me would not be interested. I'd be thinking, what is this boring artsy garbage? So I try and always have that mindset.
And to be honest with you, for me, like, if you have bad CGI, it immediately takes me out of the movie.
Yeah, me
like
too.
Bad practical effects, you kind of get a pass because some of it might be do it yourself, but like bad CGI immediately just takes me out of the whole thing, So in regards to that, Charlie, like you obviously you're talking about how much you love practical effects, but is any of it a cost saving measure with the budget for the films versus CGI?
Not really. I mean, I see other filmmakers who work among the same sort of companies that I work with using a lot of CGI. So I don't know how, but somehow it can be done. But I agree with you. It almost never looks good. And I'll take a practical effect, even if the practical effect is terrible. I'll take that over.
Absolutely.
I mean, even when I watch a film and there's really good, I'm talking about a Hollywood blockbuster, and there's a good CGI. Let's say, take for example, a werewolf. I just think probably there's just no film with a CGI werewolf that I'm ever gonna enjoy, because werewolves, I don't know, it's just the nature of a werewolf. It cannot be.
It's got to be a man beast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that, and I'll give you an example. There's a movie that I think it's called I Am Legend with Will Smith, and in that movie, I thought the movie was actually halfway decent, but the humanoid creatures that he fought throughout the movie, they were clearly CGI. And there's one scene in particular where he goes into this, I don't know, warehouse or whatever it is, and then once he illuminates the room he's in, you see he's surrounded by all these things, and when you know it's CGI, it just takes you out of that. There's no fear factor. There's no, because I mean, even though, and that's what gets me about that movie is that it wasn't like these creatures were some kind of an odd looking shape where you can't really make a human look like that. They were just basically humanoid looking creatures. So to me, I think it cost them a lot more money to do what they did. And it took the whole fear factor out of the thing because you knew they were CGI. It pulls you out. So I totally understand that. I'd much rather see, practical effects that maybe don't look quite as realistic, but there's somebody there and that something's going on, because to me it gives you that extra bonus of the fear factor because they're actually there,
Yeah,
totally. Now, with regards, let's get into the nuts and bolts a little bit. First off, one of the big things that we like to talk about that people always ask us about is the fundraising. I know you said you had a private investor for this one, but you also said that you did do an Indiegogo for some finishing funds. How did that go? Because everybody that I've talked to, when they said that, and Indiegogo is really hit and miss unless you've got, and I know some people that do it all the time for their films and they raise obscene amounts of money. Obviously, it's a system, it's a thing. And once you get out there and people know your name, they know what you're capable of, they know you're going to get something done, then it's easier to get that going. But how difficult was it for you to do it? And is it the full-time job everybody says it is?
It was difficult, and I feel like, I even though I met the goal, the funding goal, we raised whatever it was, £12,000. I don't know what that is in dollars, but we got there and we raised it, and these funds were essential to finish the film. I mean, I went out and shot the film knowing that, basically thinking, please, as soon as this is shot, I need these funds, because we were basically spending money that we didn't have. Plus, then in post-production, you've got, I have an editor, I have my composer, there's all these things that are going to cost money. Not to mention, as I said, because I'm self-distributing in the UK, I have the cost of manufacturing all of these Blu-rays. I could just never have done any of this stuff without the help of the crowdfunder. And so, to be honest, on mine, it's the first time I've crowdfunded, since being a professional filmmaker. It's the first time I've done it. And I kind of see it as I'll probably only do it once. Because you kind of go out there, you do your shot. I don't know, as I say, because I've made 20 films and I know that there is funding out there, it's probably a last resort really to come to people, just everyday people, and start asking them for money. But I think with this film, there was a couple of things. I mean, I really wanted to connect with a fan base. Yes. I really wanted to put the word out there and see who could be on my mailing list, or who would come and directly support me, and who wants names in the end credits of the movie. And so I did feel I had something to offer. And the other thing was the self-distribution. This funding hopefully kickstarts not just the self-distribution of this film, but in the UK I have the rights for many of my previous films actually. So they will all start to, this is the first one to get the ball rolling, but as long as the sales are okay, there will be all of my previous movie releases will start coming out in my own editions. In some cases, they've been basically kind of like re-edited and remastered by me quite drastically in some cases. But all of this is to say, a majority of the people who actually got involved with the Indiegogo were mainly like friends and family. It's not like it went viral and random people started finding me. I think I sold something like 125 copies of the Blu-ray. So all in all, it's quite a modest amount. See, I was there posting about it every day. I mean, I'm sure I could have done better had I don't really know all the ins and outs of social media. I don't have a very big following generally across social media and YouTube. It's actually something I'm purposely working on to build up my YouTube and build up my brand. But yeah, so it was mostly relying on the generosity of people who actually do know me, and then the odd newcomer who just happened to come across it. But I'll say this actually, I've been saying for years, if I had the rights to my own movies and I could just sell the DVD, then when my trailers get released on YouTube, because they tend to always get a good amount of views, usually anywhere between 150,000 to 350,000. I'm thinking, if just 1% of the people who watched the trailer would then click a link at the end, if there was a link that said, and you can go here and pre-order the movie, surely if just 1% of these people did it, then we'd be okay. I wouldn't need to work for companies saying, make this, make that. I could just be basically free. I mean, the way I think all indie filmmakers really should just be free to make whatever they want to make. However, so out goes this trailer that we just showed at the start of this, and it says, supporting now on Indiegogo, and in the description on the YouTube it says, here's the link, come and support us directly. And it got about 85,000 views in the space of about, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Oh, that's awesome.
But as I say, we sold 125 copies of the Blu-ray, probably 100 of which are my friends and family. So
I think a lot of Indiegogo starts off that way with friends and family more than anything else.
Yeah, but we're probably talking about 25 people from the 85,000 that saw that trailer who thought to themselves, I'm going to go and buy this, So it's interesting. It's food for thought.
Now, as far as that goes, one of the big things they always talk about with Indiegogos is the perks. You want to make sure that you make something that people are going to want. Did you have any other, besides the Blu-ray, did you have any other perks that you thought stood out that, was probably one of your more popular perk that people purchased?
Yeah. I mean, I was very focused on the Blu-ray because I really just wanted people, honestly, to buy the Blu-ray. So, and I also wanted to make sure things were priced. I see some crowdfunders and they're asking for so much for the Blu-ray.
They're asking for actual backers.
But I wanted it to be like the same as walking into any Blu-ray store and okay, maybe a teeny bit more expensive, but I didn't want it to be really pricing anyone out. But there was special thank you credit and the Blu-ray, and then to be honest with you, when it got to the bigger amounts of money, because I was studying some other horror film crowdfunding campaign success stories to see what they were offering, and I was just kind of looking at some of them like, who would want to put £150 into this movie, just to get a T-shirt and a copy of the script? Who, at the end of the day, who wants a copy of the script? At the end of the day, who even wants the poster? I mean, who has the space on their wall for a poster of a film you've never even seen? I can understand. So I've got quite a cynical viewpoint on it, but I did put all of those things in there still. People did. I don't know why, but people did come in and buy the bigger bundles. People who could have got the Blu-ray for like £25. Put in, £125 just to get a copy of the script and a poster and a T-shirt. Why they want these things, I'll never know. But I think, I'm grateful for them, and so I tried. But the whole thing was a little bit alien to me. I will say my focus was mainly the Blu-ray. There was nothing like come and be in the movie. There was no come and invite to a premiere. There was no sort of thing like that. It was just your general poster, script, T-shirt, VHS tape.
Well, you had done the Indiegogo as a finishing funds type thing, so the film was already filmed, so you couldn't really add people to it, maybe with the exception of the credits.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was younger and I was in film school, I did do some crowdfunding back then for my short films. And I realized that everyone I could see around me who were having successful crowdfunding campaigns, their films were already shot. And it really struck me as really baffling, because if it's already filmed, why would you need to do a crowdfunder? I didn't understand. Like, in an ideal world, we could just go pitch an idea, the idea's great, and everyone puts their money in. But generally, the successful ones, they were showing potential investors, they were showing them exactly what they were going to get, which kind of defeats the purpose, but that's kind of how it works. So when I did this, I knew I wanted to do it that way around. I knew I wanted to make sure that we had the material shot so that people could then actually see what we'd made, before they put their money in.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying about, what are they looking for, or what are they going to use the funds for after the movie's already shot? But I mean, that's the thing, is that making the movie's one thing, but post-production is really a whole different animal. When you look at the editing and everything, when you look at the the creation of the Blu-rays and the manufacturing of all that stuff and the artwork and everything else that's put into all that, that can be expensive. And then also nowadays, if you're going to do a big film festival run, some of these film festival submission fees are ridiculous, and those add up so quickly. Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's true. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. One other thing I wanted to ask you about. You had mentioned that you had done various distribution routes with your other films that obviously you're not happy with, but you did mention that you've got a sales agent. Is that something that you've had just for this film or that you've used for previous films? And why go the sales agent route as opposed to with a distributor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the thing with it depends. I mean, the thing with the sales agent is they're really good for international sales. Like for example, if you've made a horror film and you want to get distribution in, for me, I'm in the UK. So if I want to get distribution in the UK, especially with the amount of films that I've already made, I can just message a ton of people. I almost know every company or know of every company that I can reach out to. And, I know which ones will accept films of my level and which ones are out of my reach. And so getting UK distribution deals would be very simple, and getting USA distribution deals, again, is very simple, and probably Germany as well, because they're such a horror crazy marketplace. Mm-hmm. They're relatively easy. But what the good thing with a sales agent is, do I know distributors in Scandinavia and Brazil and France and Japan and Taiwan? No, I don't. So, and all those little sales, that's where a massive bulk of the money comes from. It's kind of like you really get your biggest bulk of money from your sale to the USA. And when it comes to horror, Germany. The UK is always pretty dire when it comes to making any money. But then as a whole, all of those other countries, maybe you make sales to 10 other countries, that can equal the sale that you've made to the USA. So that's basically why I've gotten the sales agent involved. And to be honest, I could do it myself because, in fact, with this particular sales agent, I've sent them a big long list of all of the potential buyers and distributors, because they're all people who have bought my films previously, and that kind of makes their life easier because they know who buys my content.
Right.
So I could have approached them myself, but it's nice to team up with a sales company. You have their expertise. As I say, we've changed the title of the movie to Southern Nightmare. That comes from the sales agent's expertise in dealing with horror for so many years. And so, I think it's smart to take some, I guess you have to know when someone's, because there's a lot of sales agents and distributors who have seemingly no clue what they're doing and no clue what people want. I mean, from where I am, it seems that way. It may not be true, but I've seen some really crazy choices when it comes to distributing my previous films.
I don't think it's just the distribution either. You had mentioned it earlier with some of the studios. You always have people telling you what they think people want to see, when in reality, you probably know what people want to see, and you also have your own ideas that you want to create and make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of confusing how people don't just sort of come to me. It's maybe this is being too idealistic, but it'd be nice if people came to me and said, all right, you've done 19 of these, now 20 of these, what do you think works sort of budget wise, and what can you do well, and then we'll see what we can market well, but it's usually just not like that.
Trust me, it's something I struggle with every day at my blue collar job. I'm constantly told how to do my job from people that can't do my job. So it's a struggle that I deal with on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
One other question I do have for you in regards to your sales agent, just so we know. Mm-hmm. How did you get your sales agent? Because, did you go to some of the different film markets like Cannes or anything like that or whatever? How were you able to go ahead and land your film agent or a sales agent?
In the case of this one, they'd actually been trying to get in touch with me for a long time. And so they emailed me. It was kind of an email like, are you there? Are you receiving my emails? And then I clicked through and I saw that they'd been emailing me for about 2 years, and I've been ignoring them. because you just get, when you've got a lot of films, you just get tons of these emails all the time, and a majority of sales and distribution. If somebody comes to you saying, we saw your movie and we want this and we want that, 99% of the time they're just there to come and steal from you, basically. To explain to any sort of filmmakers out there who might have a film of theirs that is sitting on the shelf, the way it kind of works is that when a sales agent comes on board, or a distributor, a lot of the time they'll have a marketing expense cap in your contract. So you sign a contract, they're going to sell your movie, and it might say that there's $20,000 as a marketing expense cap. And so you think, that seems reasonable. They're going to take the movie to Cannes and the American film market. They need to produce a trailer and the Kia and all of these things. They're going to advertise it and all of this. And then off they go and they do it. But what seems to happen, the story you get just time and time again, is the company makes sales on your movie up until they've hit that limit of whatever it is, $20,000 marketing expense. And then, would you know it, it never makes another penny. And so all these emails that are coming in asking, can we have your film? Can we have your film? You're just giving them free money, limited up to whatever that marketing cap is. So all they see you is as, that's a potential $20,000 that we could earn there. So they take your film to the market. Okay, maybe it only earns $10,000 in sales at the market. Well, they've just got a free $10,000 off your hard work. And what are they really doing at the sales market? I mean,
so basically, once they get their return on investment, they're pretty much done and wash their hands of it.
It's not even, exactly. But it's not even a return on investment because there is no investment.
Well, yeah, there's not any investment. They're just getting the money.
It's just stealing, in my opinion.
And they're probably not spending $20,000 on actual marketing. They're probably spending a quarter of that, but the cap is still $20,000.
Yeah, they're definitely not. And if you join into any sort of Facebook group about distribution for indie films and stuff, all you're going to see is horror stories of this company took this money, this company took that money. I mean, on this side of it, it all looks so crooked. I'm not a sales agent and I don't have experience in sales agents and distribution. So for all I know, we might be here bad-mouthing them and they might actually be making an honest living and really trying to, back these films. But having done it with my previous 19 films, I'm definitely leaning on the side of they're crooks and they're taking us all for a ride. And the amount of emails I get about, you've got a film with this company, we're suing them and all this sort of stuff. It's just, it's a bizarre side of the filmmaking world that you only get to see when you actually start making stuff.
Right.
Yep, and that's the sad part of it, because it really takes away that those filmmakers that are doing this because this is their passion, this is what they want to do, and then when you go and you take their hard work and you go out and you make your money off of it and they never see anything for it, it really gets that person to really think like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, so my advice for any filmmakers watching this is, once you've made your movie, if you can find a way to distribute it yourself, why the hell wouldn't you? We now have the access to, all of social media, YouTube, you can make your own website, you can go and advertise it. The chances are what you're going to do as the filmmaker is going to be 10 times more than what any distributor or sales agent is going to do, unless you get picked up by, I don't know, one of the bigger companies. But to be honest, I signed with a company once who I thought, my goodness, this is kind of a big company. They're going to do a great job of this. And they're the same as all the others, the same as all the others. So, I have had films that have made money back for me, but then I've also had films that have made absolutely zero. And how is that possible, that a film can make absolutely zero when it's on Walmart, in Walmart, on DVD, on Blu-ray, I may as well have printed my own copies and stood on the street corner and sold them for, £5 each.
Right.
I would have made £5 more than I've ever seen from these companies. So why wouldn't we do that? So I think everyone needs to be asking themselves that more often before you go jumping on trying to pursue distribution.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point too. If with self-distribution, I mean, there's more avenues, it seems like these days. I mean, just with Indie Horror Junkie, I mean, you have the avenue of getting the word out about the film to begin with, but then you have all these streaming services that I'm sure at some point are willing to make a deal or even pick it up as an exclusive. You can only watch it on Plex or whatever the case may be. So there's it seems like the market is changing a little bit where there would be more avenues for self-distribution like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it does all change so quickly.
Yeah.
And I think it's not going to be long until, we'll all just have our own distribution. I mean, there's no reason Indie Horror Junkie can't be their own streaming and their own distribution. And
hey, that's a good idea.
By the time you get a collection of movies, and you've ran a podcast, ran a festival, and the word's out, well, you've done the job of what a distributor and a sales agent would have done. And so let that cash flow right back to you. Be your own boss. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with my company. As I say, 20 films. Many of them I actually have the rights to. I've managed to, well, a lot of the times I kept the rights. If I ever did want to do a self-distribution release, I just never have the time to do it. But now, I've been lost in a cloud of, just making film after film after film and having a lot of fun for almost 10 years now. And with this film recently, I've taken a little bit of a step back and I can see, okay, what am I going to do now going forward? And everything changes so fast. And I look around and there's, influencers and YouTubers who are having successful filmmaking careers. And this didn't exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago, before I sort of got lost, before I lost myself in it. So I have to take a step back and look at where the industry is going. And, earlier this year, I took a bunch of my actors and we all recorded behind the scenes interviews, kind of like chat show style, in a big sort of Gothic mansion, because I really focused on, I want to try and start getting more content out about the films and building my brand on my YouTube and stuff. And, on my YouTube channel and on my social media, there's never been a video of myself. I've never posted myself talking about my films. And you look around nowadays at, successful filmmakers, we all know what Damien Leone looks like and what he sounds like, and we see him talking and you go, oh, wait a minute, things are changing. We actually do need to be putting ourselves out there. And shit, I'm going to have to not just make tons and tons of films, but also take a moment to start putting my own face out there. So, it's all you've always got to keep your eye on where things are going, try and keep up with things.
Okay. Well, we're reaching the end of the show here, so we always like to try and end it with finding out what you've got coming up next. I know you're still in post-production for this one here, but do you have anything else lined up that you're getting ready to jump into once this one is ready to go?
Yeah, all I'll say about that is I've got stuff lined up. As soon as this one's finished in post, there's a couple of things. So this new one, because it is my first film that is self-funded, and that I've done it in this way, it's under my old company was called Dark Temple Motion Pictures. This new company is called Destructo International Pictures, and my passion projects, my self-funded things that I own the rights to, are going to be under this Destructo new company. So Southern Nightmare is the first film, and it's going to be always in this very, well, you'll see when you see the film, it's very outrageous subject matter. It's not necessarily commercial. Nobody would ever fund this for me unless they were crazy. It's completely just what I want to do. So I guess that's me, and that's my brand. And so I'm writing at the moment the second film for this Destructo company. So it'll be following along in this sort of this new filmmaking way that I've embraced. And then I've got 3 new films in the pipeline for Dark Temple Motion Pictures, which I'm basically trying to treat as like, that's my filmmaking as a day job. So it's not necessarily like my passion projects, but they're the films that pay the bills.
Right.
but whereas previously I've done 3 Killer Snake movies, which I'm actually very happy with, all 3 Killer Snake movies.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those.
I never set out as a filmmaker to make 1 Killer Snake movie, let alone 3 Killer Snakes. It's not. When I talked earlier about I've got this big long list of films that I want to make in my lifetime, Snake movies was not. So what I'm trying to do, I've got a handful of scripts that kind of fell by the wayside over the years, and I'm trying to finish all of those scripts under Dark Temple, and then potentially call it a day on Dark Temple, and then only focus on my passion projects, which is where I'd like to be if I could afford to just make my passion projects. So
that's the goal.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're all going to be practical effects like Goblin Jack here. I know Newfoundland uses all practical effects. Yep. See?
Yes.
Practical effects fans across the board. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a chance to learn a little bit about you and your processes and what you've got coming out. Really excited for your Southern Nightmare film. The trailer looks amazing, and hopefully we can get over the Indie Horror Junkie Film Fest and learn more about what you got going on here in the future. Okay, where can people find you on social media?
I'm at Charlie Steeds, at Dark Temple Films. One of those two, either at Charlie Steeds or at Dark Temple Films.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. If you, what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and take you off screen, but don't hang up yet. We want to give you a proper goodbye, but we'll get and close the show out, and then we'll come right back to you. Okay?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. All right. Another great interview there. A lot of good insight. So really looking forward to seeing whatever he's got coming up next and chatting with him here real quick. But
super interesting guy, and Southern Nightmare looks really good.
Very, very high concept. And like I said, Texas Chainsaw vibes. Loved it. Very well done. You can tell. So very much looking forward to it. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and call it a day, and thank you guys for joining us and chatting with us. And hopefully we'll see everybody again, and then even more people next week, right?
Yes, sir.
We'll see you next Wednesday.